Welcome back to Mentor Nation, the podcast for entrepreneurs looking for real mentorship, real strategies, and real stories so that you can go out and build your dreams. I'm your host, John Abbas, and it's time for another episode, so buckle your seatbelt and let's go. Hey, what's up, Mentor Nation family? It's your host, John Abbas here with another incredible episode for you guys, full of valuable wisdom and just amazing content. Today, I have the privilege of introducing to you one of the most incredible female entrepreneurs that I have ever met. Ehren Kruger is the founder of the Ehren Kruger team, which is one of the highest producing real estate teams in the country. With her small team of less than 10 people, they will sell over 500 homes this year, and they consistently do over $100 million in real estate annually. She has been ranked number 1 producing realtor in Tennessee, number 14 in the nation, and because of her reputation, she is consistently approached by large TV networks to start her own reality show. And she was even voted by Nashville Lifestyles magazine as one of the top 25 most beautiful people in 2016. But what is most impressive about Ehren, however, is her unique ability to build a winning culture with her team. This ability has not only allowed her to scale unbelievably fast and crush every goal that she sets year after year, but she's able to scale with a team that is a fraction of the size of anyone else producing the same amount of sales. And so today we're going to talk about how she moved to Nashville all alone in her early 20s after her parents died unexpectedly in a car accident, and then how she went from a solo entrepreneur after 6 years. So for the first 6 years, she was just a solo entrepreneur selling real estate, but after 6 years, she finally started building a team so that she can scale, and we take a deep dive into how she built a culture that breeds loyalty and fun while also bringing the absolute best out of people. And, for me, one of the biggest nuggets she mentioned is that when you can bring the absolute best out of people, they can typically perform at the same level as 3 or more people who are just doing a job for a paycheck. And this has allowed her to build a successful but very, very lean business. And so if you're an entrepreneur listening in and you're struggling to go from being solo to building a team, or maybe you have a team or employees and you're desperately wondering how to hire properly, how to interview people, how to build a winning culture, how to create the right environment from scratch, you are going to be blown away by this episode. So please pay close attention. And with that being said, please help me welcome Ehren Kruger to the show. All right, Ehren, I want to welcome you to Mentor Nation. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So to get started, I have a question that I always ask our guests just kind of as an icebreaker. But, what accomplishment are you most proud of in your life or in your career, and why?
Well, that's a really big question. And kind of thinking about that, I would say, when I was 21 years old, I kind of went through something that I hope that nobody goes through. And I lost both of my parents in a car accident. And they were coming back home from my sister's college basketball game, and a deer went through the windshield. And at that moment, I was a senior in college, and my life completely changed. I was 4 hours away from home, and all of a sudden now I'm running my dad's business where he had employees. And my sister was dealing with the grief of that they had the accident coming back from her basketball game. And, that moment could have really crumbled me. And there were moments that brought me to my knees, but, I stood up and I said, what needs to be done? And we got the employees paid out. We, dissolved the business. We paid the back taxes that were needed to be paid. We did the things that needed to be done. And, my parents always instilled in my sister and I to be strong, independent women and to not do things halfway, to do them, 110%. And that has propelled me through my life in every job that I've had and every business that I've created. And it's just, I feel them with me every single day. So I feel that, carrying their mission of how they wanted their daughters to be and working really hard and not letting that just destroy me because it was brutal. But they're with me every day and I feel them. And that to me makes me most proud that I know that I'm making them proud.
That's awesome. Now, do you think that you learned that quality from one of your parents, just the ability to pick up after something like that happened? Is that something that maybe your dad or your mom, like, did they have that kind of an ability? Is that where you got that from?
I think so. I mean, my mom was very much tell it how it is and direct, and that's how I am. And my dad was very strong but quiet. And I feel like sometimes I have a good mix of both with listening to people and taking it in and then being thoughtful about the decision that I'm making. But I'm also very quick to make a decision too. And I don't really rethink it. I can, make a decision and move on. And I think that's what helped me, because if you overthink something too much, you can be weighed down with that. And I'm just one of those people that just likes to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Just keep moving forward.
That's awesome. Well, I am super excited to get into this episode. The title of this is How to Build a Winning Culture in Your Company so that you can scale. And I can't think of a better person to talk to about that. I'm actually sitting here in your office right now. Beautiful view over downtown Nashville.
We love it.
Yeah, I bet. You don't get this kind of view sometimes when you're just doing podcasts. Today you're absolutely crushing real estate. You have one of the best reputations in the entire state of Tennessee. You're consistently selling over $100 million a year in real estate. And, people are seeking you out for podcasts. People are seeking you out for reality shows. And everybody's trying to figure out your secret. But the crazy thing is, just a little over a decade ago, you moved to Nashville knowing absolutely nobody. Like, how do you go in 10 to 15 years from moving to a new city, knowing nobody, to being number one in the state, personally, and just building a world-class business with the reputation that you have? Can you just take us through a little bit about that story?
Sure. Well, it didn't happen overnight, obviously, right? I mean, this is years. I moved to Tennessee 16 years ago, and I came down here on a trip, and I was staying at the Sheraton Hotel downtown. And I remember pulling back those blinds and looking out at the city and just having this feeling that this city was for me. There was just something magical about Nashville. And it just had such a feeling that came over me that I literally went home back to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia, walked into my boss's office and say, I just want to let you know it's October now, but I'm going to be quitting. I'm giving you until May to find somebody, but I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm letting you know.
And what were you doing in Pennsylvania?
I was working in advertising and marketing.
Gotcha.
And so I ended up doing that. I ended up quitting. I moved down here without knowing anybody. I didn't have a job, okay? But I was young and naive, and I was a bit of a fighter, right? I was like, gonna make this happen. And so I ended up buying a townhouse down here in Nashville. And within a month, I ended up getting a job at an ad agency here. Very lucky that I got a job so quickly.
Right.
And it was a great opportunity for me in luxury footwear and jewelry, and it was fun. And I was there for a little bit, and then I got recruited away to do a children's toy company and be their director of marketing and licensing, where I did negotiation deals at 25 years old with Marvel and Nickelodeon and Disney. And, I was doing the commercials, and it was just so much fun. But at the same time, my boss asked me to do something that I didn't think was on the up and up. And it was about to plagiarize a commercial of a competitor. For me, that's just not even an option. That's not something that we can do. I could write a commercial that's better, but that just wasn't what he wanted. And he was coming from a place of fear that this competitor was going to get a leg up. And I just told him at that point, you're going to have my resignation. And I tell you what, I felt two hands go on my shoulder, and I know it was my parents at that moment.
Wow.
And I just knew I was walking out being 25, making six figures without a job. And I remember walking down the hallway, and he yelled down to me, Ehren, what are you going to do? And I turned around and I said, I'm going to go into real estate. And he laughed at me. So you talk about fire. I'm like, you know what?
So you get motivated by that.
Oh my goodness. Good. Bet against me. Please bet against me. And that just gave me motivation. So, I went into real estate, and of course that was October when all of this happened. November, I'm in real estate. I did my first deal within a couple hours because of course I'm going through real estate school, and then I'm telling some of my girlfriends that I've met since I've been there, and not that I had a large sphere, but I was telling them, and one of them had a boyfriend who was moving into Nashville and got my first sale, which was $800,000 at the time. And I was negotiating against a very big agent, but I didn't want to let him know that I was a newbie. And that's kind of what started it gave me a little bit of added income in the very beginning.
Right.
And then because I didn't really have a huge sphere, and I chose to buy and purchase leads through lead gen and work that and learn how to convert a cold lead and be authentic and with the delivery and how to capture these leads and how to follow up. And so I was very committed to doing that every single day and making those clients that ended up becoming buyers of mine my forever clients. And those clients today I've done maybe 10 transactions with them personally or their family members. And it's magical. It's great. And that's how the business started of me becoming, an independent agent.
That's awesome. And it's fascinating because we can spend literally hours talking about all of the things that you've mastered over the years. But, there was one, just because I know you, because believe it or not, maybe the audience doesn't know, my girlfriend is a part of your team. And so I've seen firsthand just how you run a world-class business. And the thing that I really want to zone in on is something that I know that I've struggled with, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is just how to go from a solo entrepreneur and actually scale your business. Because, I know when I owned a restaurant, I felt like I was just an operator, an employee in there. And, I had a very successful customer that gave me a book called The E-Myth one day. And it was all about how to work on your business instead of in your business. And it changed my life, even though the restaurant was opened right before the recession and I lost it anyway. So I didn't get to scale it into anything. But I just think it's incredible what you've been able to do. I mean, you have a team that accomplishes really what any other person would need 3 to 4 times the amount of people to do. So you run a very lean business, but just to see how you've built that culture, I mean, they would walk off a cliff for you. And I want to talk about that because your first 6 years, is that right? You were solo.
I was, yes.
And then you made a decision where something happened, which we're going to get into. Mm-hmm. And then now you have been able to scale exponentially every single year. And I just want to hit that moment. Mm-hmm. So what caused that decision and what was it like the first 6 years? And then how did you make that transition?
Well, I never sought out to have a team ever. Mm-hmm. That was not even on my radar. I never even sought out to sell 100 homes a year. Now we're going to sell close to probably over 500 homes this year. And so those goals were just never on my radar. It was always about serving your clients, doing good work, keeping your head down. And then by doing great work, your clients are going to send you referrals.
Right.
And so what ended up happening was over those 6 years I was an independent agent, I'm doing $5 million, $10 million in sales, $15 million in sales. And then right around that point, it's tough to do everything yourself. I'm dropping signs, putting out lock boxes, meeting with people. And it was a lot. And so I just knew I needed to get an assistant. And so my first hire was an unlicensed assistant. And honestly, I think I was looking for a warm body that could just drop. I didn't know how to hire. I didn't know what I was doing. Let's be honest. I didn't know. I wasn't seeking out. I was in this struggle mode. I was surviving. I was not thriving. Okay. I say now I'm thriving, but I wasn't at the time. And so, I said, okay, you're a warm body. You're good. Okay. Put you here. Well, what I realized really quickly is that the person that I hired, didn't have the same mindset as I did.
Right.
She didn't have the same ownership in the fact of taking pride and ownership of what the task was, as little or as big as it was. And so I fired her within a week and a half. I knew it wasn't going to work.
Wow. You made that decision that quick.
Absolutely. I knew it wasn't going to work. And then I basically had to talk to myself and be like, you need to get your act together. You're wasting time, because look how much time it took just to even interview this other person that you thought was going to be right. And it wasn't.
Right.
So what I decided to do was then get a licensed real estate agent who wanted to be an admin, who wanted to be that assistant. So her job capability was bigger. She could go open up doors. She could go show clients. She could help me leverage ever before. She also had a foundation of what real estate was. So it wasn't like I was having to teach her about the contract. So that saved me time. Okay. From the very beginning. Okay. I didn't have to think about paying a salary at the time, because any deal that I closed, she made a flat fee on. So it was like when I got paid, she got paid. So I don't have to have the stress going on about having to pay somebody's salary. So it was all about leverage.
Right.
And it was just about when I make money, she makes money. And she knew it because she already had that mindset. And so the mindset thing was really super important. So just when I hired the next assistant, that's when everything just started to kind of triculate. And I started getting phone calls out of the blue from everybody from like investors to people that were like saying, hey, my whole family's relocating from New Jersey or Chicago or whatever it is. And it was just that moment where I was like, wow, I need more help. This is not going to cut it. And that's where I started adding on more people. And I always kind of use the gauge of, you know, when I'm more like when it gets sticky, when it gets tough, when I'm working, if I feel the pain, that's when I want to add on because I feel like then we have enough business because I really am thoughtful about, I don't want to take from somebody else.
That's right.
And I don't want somebody to come on and then not be able to survive and thrive. I want them to be super successful because when they're successful and they're closing deals and they're getting that lead and they're having that closing, they're doing the happy dance. They're super excited.
Right.
And that's what I want to see. And so I'm conscious about that. And I think going back to Kat, who's your girlfriend, you know, when she contacted me, gosh, over 2.5 years ago, she sent me an email and it was amazing. Like the email was great. And I just was like, she's telling me that she's a new agent. And I'm like, I don't take new agents. I never took a new agent because remember what I just said. I want somebody to have that knowledge because I'm going to have to spend time with her. I'm going to have to coach her. And I didn't want that because I've got all this business that we're growing. But she was so thoughtful and she asked me for coffee and she said that she's moving from Chicago to come down here and that she has contacted 5 people who she thinks, you know, do amazing business at the top of their game in Nashville. And I just thought that was so thoughtful. I said, gosh, what is coffee? What does that harm anything? Right. So let's do coffee. And that's what we did. And I met her and I was even more impressed and completely blown away. And I was getting ready to take my team at the time on a trip. I take them on a great trip if we knock it out of the park every single year.
Which you do.
Yeah. Well, you know, we'll see. Well, the results aren't in yet. But I told her, I said, listen, she obviously wanted to come on the team. And I just said, let me think about it because I don't want to take from their pockets. Sure. It was February at the time. And, you know, the spring season from May to October, that's when it's like game is on. And so this was February and I wanted to be conscious about that. If Kat came on, I wanted her to thrive. And so I came back and thoughtfully, I spoke to her and I said, Kat, I can't hire you right now. I think you are wonderful, but unfortunately right now is not the time. But do me a favor, stay in touch with me.
Right.
And she did. And she went on another team. And 3 months later, she asked me for coffee again. And of course, this time it's the spring season and we're growing. And I made her at coffee ask me for the business because she has to ask for the business. And she did. And I said, are you ready to come on the team? And she made the leap of faith. And now she's one really amazing buyer's agent. And I'm so proud of her. And the growth that I have seen in her has been just amazing.
I'm proud of her too.
Yeah.
Not just because we're in a relationship.
You should be proud of her. She's amazing.
Very proud of her. And I want to go back to that because that's a huge thing. You're busy. Business is coming your way because you're serving your clients. But now you need to scale. And so, you know, knowing nothing about hiring and interviewing and training and developing, so like, how did you do that? Like, how did you take the full-time job that you had, which is probably keeping you busy because all top producing realtors
80 hours a week. I was working. I mean, crazy.
So how do you also learn while testing, while just, you know, hiring, interviewing? Like, what was that process like? And how did you get through that? And what, like, did you make any mistakes along the way? Like, what was that like?
Oh my gosh, a ton of mistakes. Well, of course, at first I didn't know how to hire. And like I told you before, I was like looking for a warm body. Well, then after that, I was like, well, I need leverage. So let me get somebody who's experienced and at least knows a foundation of real estate. So that was the next kind of path of looking for licensed real estate agents who've already had several years in the business. And so that's where Georgia came into play and Joyce came into play, where they already had a foundation and they have been with me for, you know, almost 6 years, 6 years now. So, you know, that's where that came into play. But as I started growing, I figured out that I also needed to find people that were best suited for the positions that we had. for instance, when Kat came in, Kat had no foundation of real estate. So I always think about people like your paperwork has to be really tight. Paperwork is, for a really high organized person. And when I hire on the DISC profile, I look at it as a gauge. I don't necessarily use it as my one and only kind of foundation, but I look to see where they are. And Kat was a high D. I don't hire high Ds. But she also had no knowledge of real estate. So I knew that I had to kind of break her down a little bit and put her into something that made her a little uncomfortable, which was more of like contract to close and all the transaction management. So get that organizational skill set and make her uncomfortable for 6 months and put her in there. And if she can make it through that, then she's going to be a fantastic buyer's agent on the other side. And she did. I remember like the first day that she worked, she looked at me and she's like, puts her hands on her face and goes, oh my gosh, I need assistant. And I said, Kat, you are the assistant, honey. And we still laugh about that to this day. But now she's got somebody who does her paperwork for her. That's where the change has happened because she's gone through that whole thing and everybody has grown. I mean, Meg was my closing coordinator. That's where she started. She runs one of my divisions now. I mean, I have 4 divisions of my company. I have a investor division. I have a builder developer division. I have a relocation division that Kat is running and building right now. And then I also have our resale division with our buyers and sellers and our resale. So, that's very strategic. And I really believe about building up somebody, but making sure that they're educated and they have the skill set, but they have to earn it too. That's
right. That's absolutely right. So take me through that process. When I sent you over a list of a few questions, the one thing I wanted to kind of hone in on was, like, what is your superpower? And you were super quick to reply. You said, number one, the ability to read people, because that allows me to, serve my clients best, but also to be able to, pull the best out of the team that I'm building. And you also said, a few other things, but I really want to elaborate on that and how it pertains to building like a winning culture. Did you learn that somewhere? Do you model yourself after somebody, or did you really just figure out from making mistake after mistake on how to build a culture? Because your retention is through the roof. I mean, your team literally loves you. They operate on all cylinders.
I love them. I mean, that's the thing. I think I was on a panel yesterday and I was telling, I think of myself as a CEO that runs a $120 million business. But the most important asset that I have is the culture of this team, bar none. Because if I knock out the culture right, if they are happy, they are delivering the very best to my clients.
That's right.
And this is, they see me asking them to do things that I would do myself. So there's nothing that I ask them that I wouldn't do myself. Whether it's getting down on my hands and knees and wiping up muddy footprints right before a photo shoot of a house. And so they see that. And, I try to lead by example. I'm not the perfect boss. I have my moments. There's moments when I give feedback and I think to myself later, I'm like, I need to go back and read another book. Like, I need to learn something better. Like I'm always trying to be better and do better. I'm human. I make mistakes too. But I feel like if I can get the best out of them, it is by challenging them and pushing them into something uncomfortable. But I believe in them. To be on this team, not a lot of people can do it.
Right.
This is a lot of hard work. They see the beautiful trips that we go on and the great things that we do. And they have no idea today, but after this podcast, I'm walking in, they think they're doing training from 11 to 2, but we're going to the spa for the spa day. And they have no idea.
No way.
Yeah. But this is because we've had the most incredible summer on record. I mean, they are just amazing. I'm so grateful and so thankful and so blessed, but they've done everything. They have changed their lives. We have people on our team members that paid off their houses, that paid off their graduate degrees years early. They are given the opportunity to change their lives, and they do it through their hard work. So that's the most important thing. And I feel like not every day is a great day in real estate. We deal with deaths, divorces, moving trucks, houses catching on fire. I mean, we have to be problem solvers. But we have this thing on our team. You got to have your positive pants on. You got to smile. You got to be happy. I make all of my team members read The Energy Bus by John Gordon. If you haven't done it whether you have a real estate team, you run a business, whatever it is, thinking about doing it, that talks about being positive. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be a great day.
Right.
But you have to kind of keep that positivity in the main focus of everything that you do, even when you give feedback. And sometimes it's hard to swallow feedback, but I think it's important for growth.
That's right. I agree 100%. And so obviously I hear a lot from you as far as, one of the biggest things when it comes to culture is I see a lot of gratitude. I think every time you begin a sentence, it always starts off with gratitude. So I know that has to be one major component. Is there anything else that you would say are really critical components to building a winning culture? Like, let's say that you obviously lost your entire real estate business. You had to go build it all over again. How would you do it? Like, what are some of the main things that you think attribute to a really winning culture that you would implement right away?
I think that every person who comes onto your team has to know what your vision is. Okay. So the mindset is there, so that can be aligned. But more importantly, as a team lead or a CEO or a manager, you have to know what that person's why is. Why do they want to work for you? What does that look like? Is it to get out of debt?
Right.
Is it to grow their skill set? And I think that if you map out goals with people and then you reevaluate them, you push them to higher goals and things like that and have that accountability, I think that really helps. I think also for a winning culture is treating people like family. It doesn't mean that, we don't have harsh conversations and very direct conversations. There is no tolerance for anything that's unethical or illegal on my team. And right. As much as I love these team members, if they did something like that, it'd break my heart, but I would have to let them go. And they know that because ethics is everything. And so, but I don't have to worry about that.
Right. Absolutely.
Because the mindset's there and they know what the expectations are. And it's great because, I have an open door policy. We have 2 offices that are kind of catty corner to each other and they can come over at any time, hear me negotiating and speaking with other agents and working out things. And, I have agents on my team that have been with me for years and then they'll say, I've never heard that before. That's a great solution or a great idea. Or I will hear them on the phone with somebody and I'll say, girl, that was awesome. That was amazing. You just crushed it. That just makes me so proud that when they take, something that they've learned from me, but then they put their own spin on it. That's and right. Make them their own. That is so rewarding. This is just so much bigger than just real estate here. It's not a transaction business. It's a relationship business.
That's right.
And it's a relationship with my team members. They're extremely loyal. They're hardworking, and I give them that back too. And, I'm trying to keep growing and learning too, and to be a better boss. And there are people that look at my business and say, you should put some of your people on salary, make more money for yourself. But I believe that if I'm making money, they should be making money. We are, based on, different production and transactions. And so every house that closes, they're going to make money. I don't want to cap them.
That's incredible. And I want to backtrack just a minute because this is something that I struggle with that you just talked about is like having those hard conversations. Do you get nervous when you have to have one of those? Is it something that you've just weathered over the years and now you've become immune to it? Does it still bother you? Does it fester? Like when you have to have a difficult conversation, because I know a lot of people, especially when they're trying to scale, they try to avoid conflict and they let an issue fester for weeks or months. Like, what's your philosophy on that?
No, I never let it fester. I see a problem, I immediately hit it head on, and we have a discussion about it. There might be a moment where you have to take a deep breath.
Right.
But I think it's very, very important to, talk about it. Communication saves lives. I think it's just people that work for me and with me, they're all different personalities. And people take feedback differently. And so you said before about reading people. That's very important. You need to know the people that work for you. Sometimes you have to be very direct for them to hear you.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to use kid gloves because they're going to overthink it later. And the biggest thing is when I'm giving feedback is you look them in the eye and you tell them, I chose you. I believe in you. You would not be here if I did not believe in you. I know you can do better. So how are we going to change the systems and processes to make sure this mistake didn't happen again? I leave it up to them to change it. Go do better. You can do better. Because believe me, they were not let go after a week and a half. They're here. I believe in them. And so that's the most important thing. And I tell you what, they don't want to disappoint me. They don't. They like take it to heart. And it's like, I know that about them. And that's what I love about them. I take it to heart too. Like sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And I'll call back and I'm like, listen, I did a misstep. I'm reading a book about it. Like, I just want you to know I'm human too. And I didn't handle that the correct way. I'm not too big to recognize my mistakes either. And I'm not perfect. I'm learning every single day. I was telling you before the podcast, on my team has access to my calendar to book appointments and things like that with me. And I have a time between 6 and really 7:30 that's blocked out on my calendar every single time. On my calendar, it shows Ehren time. What that means is I'm checking my emails, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm finishing up a book, whatever I want to do. It's that quiet time where I can drink my coffee. I'm working, at my house, trying to avoid Nashville traffic before I go into the office or before an appointment. And it's just that time where I can kind of center myself and, hit it on a good note for the day. And I'm always listening to different things, whether it's how to be a better social media marketer, or to be a better boss, or to be a better leader, or just, a different way to present a listing, different things. I don't have all the answers, and I'm seeking those.
Absolutely. So obviously growth is mandatory, which you tend to do every single day. There's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this that are where you were 6-7 years ago. They, obviously you can't even be a solopreneur for very long if you're not serving clients and you're not doing a great job. But for those people that they want to scale so badly to create more leverage in their life, maybe they want to hire one person, what advice would you have for them when they want to think about scaling for the first time in their business, whether it's, an HVAC person looking to hire a tech, what advice would you give in terms of, how to hire, how much trust to give them, how to test them? Like, what are some of the criteria or just any nuggets that you could give that would help them and give them the confidence to move forward and take that leap?
Sure. Well, there's kind of an analytical approach to kind of when do you hire the next person.
Right.
And in real estate, it's like when you hit $8 million in sales, you want to consider hiring your first assistant. But I think that kind of just goes to a barometer of how many hours a week are you working, right? And what are you working on? So like for me, how does business come to me? It's through lead generation. So how many hours am I able to devote to that versus the paperwork or the sign running? And so when you look at that type of stuff, that's what you need to look at and have somebody else take over. As far as your question about how do you trust these people, how do you hire the right person? One thing that I'm doing now, which really has helped tremendously through our hiring process, is when we put a job ad out, obviously we say, please send us your resume, but also download, do the Tony Robbins free disc profile and send that in. Well, sometimes people will say, where do you get the link? Well, Google it, right? Google it. So that's the first test. So you're off the list.
That's so funny.
But then there's like, you get so many resumes without the disc profile. So those people are off the list. Doesn't matter. I mean, if they went to Harvard, it doesn't matter. They're off the list. They couldn't follow directions. So now we have a group of resumes with disc profiles. We look at the disc profiles, see if they're suited, and then we start having them come in. I've got an amazing executive assistant, Sarah, who just kind of puts everybody's disc profile together, checks their references ahead of time before I get to see them, and then we bring them in. And when I'm speaking with them, we talk about the job, we do the typical, interview questions, but I always have a test. And so the test is, goals are so important to me. And so what are your goals? What are your 5-year goals? Do me a favor, later today, send me an email and let me know what your 5-year goal is. I don't care if it's, on the Ehren Kruger team in real estate in general, you want to have a restaurant one day. I don't care what it is, but tell me what your goals are, because I really care about what your goals are. And we want to have an action plan to make sure that we can hit those. And so that's super important to me. So later tonight, just send me an email. Did you notice that I said today, tonight?
That's right.
Twice.
Yes.
Okay. That's the test. So if I don't we're interviewing right now for a full-time marketing position. And of our 6 people that we interviewed, 4 heard that and 4 sent them that night. The other 2, as lovely as they are, did not. They're off the list.
That's so badass. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, there was a story that I read, and I can't remember which billionaire or CEO, but he would have a test. And anytime he would interview somebody, if he had an interview scheduled at 11 o'clock, when they showed up, he would send his assistant down to like look in their car and see if it was
clean.
Yes.
I've heard that.
You remember that? And it was just so funny. He eliminated like 75% of candidates because it's like how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you can't be, organized with your own vehicle, how are you going to be organized in the business? That's so cool.
I have the same. I have a friend of mine who just glances at their purse. If it's a female, how organized is her purse. I'm like, please don't look at mine. This doesn't, But then there was a thing where I interviewed doing pharmaceutical sales, right out of college. And I was offered the job. But one of the tests was a lunch because you would take doctors out at that time, right? And they wanted to see, did I salt and pepper my food before I tasted it? Did I assume things without really digging in deep? And so if I salt and peppered my food, I just assumed, right? Instead of tasting it and really diving into the situation before making a judgment.
That's crazy.
So it's all about the test, but it's all about, are people listening? So going back to what my test is, are you listening? Are you going to listen to my clients? Are you going to hear me? Are you going to hear a team member? We go 110 miles an hour here on the Ehren Kruger team.
That's right.
And so I'm from the North. I'm from Philadelphia. I talk so fast. And if you don't have a notepad or taking notes from your phone, you're going to miss something.
Right.
And so you have to hear, and listening is such an incredible skill to have, especially in my business for negotiation, because the other side will tell you everything you need to know. You just need to keep it quiet on your side. So that's a very big skill. And it's about hearing your clients, hearing what your team members need, hearing what they want, hearing what their why is, and then making that happen.
That's really powerful. I have just a couple quick questions, and then we'll get into a quick rapid fire. So in just my experience, there's two types of people that are really looking to scale. And I just want to see which one you are, and also, how that pertains into what we're talking about today. So, there's the person that they're really great at one thing and they need to scale by hiring people to, whose strengths are the complete opposite, like Russell Brunson, who created ClickFunnels.
Mm-hmm.
He is not a coder. He has the vision and he's great with people, but he had to hire and build a company with people that he couldn't teach them how to do the other parts of the job. They had to completely figure it out. And then there's people like, I believe like yourself or James Cameron, the famous filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Titanic.
Who can do everybody's job better than they can. And so,
I don't know about that. Not me, but okay.
Well,
but I understand what you're saying.
He knows enough about it, but it creates this really high expectation. And so one of the struggles that he had is just giving that trust to people, even though they're imperfect, in letting them make mistakes without just going back to, I'm going to do this all myself. And so, obviously knowing as much as I know about you, you can typically jump in and take over someone's job if you needed to. How is that? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of scaling?
Yeah, so great question. I think that 90% of what's done on this team, I can certainly jump into in a hot second and, do. But as we are growing, and like I said before, we have a relocation division, and you brought up Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. Kat came to me, this winter and said, I have an idea about ClickFunnels. I was like, click what? I have no idea what this is. I ended up going to the 10X conference in February. Russell was speaking and it clicked with me. I kind of understood the concept, had no idea how to do it. Kat wanted to go to this event that he was having, which was like $1,000. And, he was offering this whole package for, I think, $3,000 or something like that.
Yep.
And it included the ticket. This $1,000 ticket. So I said, you know what? This is $10,000 worth. I'll go ahead and do it. Kat, you're on. You learn it, you do it, you master it. If you develop something cool, we're going to split it because I'm going to put the money behind all the ads, everything going out, all of this type of stuff. And so going back to your answer, I know nothing about that stuff. She's doing all of that. So as we're growing, I've had to rely on different, partners, if you will, to grow and scale my business. And I know that Kat is better than me in that respect. Now, Kat's I have a marketing and advertising background, so I'm creative. So we sit and we kind of talk about different strategies, but she's going to implement it. I don't know how to do that. I don't have time to do that. That's not where I'm best suited to be. Right. And I recognize that. I also recognize that this is like the Ehren Kruger team 2.0. This is like the next phase, right? If you're not jumping on the technology wagon, you're going to be left behind.
That's right.
And so tech is not my strong suit. Kat and I were, having a meeting the other day about retargeting and all this type of stuff. And I was like, what? I like needed Advil afterwards. But it's something that I have to be a part of. I have to know a little bit about it. I don't need to be the implementer. I don't need to be able to jump in and fix the situation. We are now at a level where we can pay people to do this and go and execute. And, I think that also goes back to like when you let a team member go and have ownership in this type of stuff. I mean, we're partners in that.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing. And she can work as hard or not as possible. She knows what her goals are. She's not going to let me down. I know Kat, this is what's going to happen. And so it's going to work. It's going to be a great thing for us and our team for growth. But as we get bigger and bigger, there are going to be other things like that where I can't jump into, and I'm okay with it. There was a time when I thought every client needed me, and they don't. They need to know that I'm there to step in or a phone call away. They don't need me because guess what? I have the most amazing agents that learn through osmosis of how to deliver superior service, treat them like gold, and be solution-based agents. Nothing makes me prouder than to see that.
Man, there are so many nuggets in just the last 2 minutes that I think the audience is going to be blown away by. I just know they're going to pick up on that. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Yeah, just really quick and then we'll wrap up. So the first one is, how important do you rank having mentors to success, and who is one of your mentors? Or another variation of this is there anybody that you model yourself after?
I don't model myself after anybody because I think, I'm my own person, right? But I will say, as far as my mentor, when I went from advertising to marketing to the toy company, a gentleman recruited me. Long story short, he used to be CEO of Pillsbury. He was on the cover of Newsweek. He was in his late 80s at the time, and he became my mentor. We had coffee every month, and he since passed on, but he had the moment when we had coffee one time, and he said, I was in real estate and I was an independent agent. And he said, Ehren, you either need to go get your law degree or go get your MBA. And I said, what? He goes, you are an entrepreneur. You are a businesswoman. You are running a business and you don't even know it yet. You think of yourself as just a realtor. You are so much more than that. So I was like, well, I respect him so much. He's telling me law school or MBA. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going to be quicker? What's going to be cheaper? So I go for my MBA. So
you did it.
I did during the recession. I was full-time agent. And during this time, I did a thesis project. He said, come up with a company that's never been. And I came up with a all-natural vending machine, that basically had ambient, cool, and, room temperature products with credit card. Long story short, we got them into the schools down here. I was the first one in Tennessee. I was doing real estate. I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning, delivering these vending machines, doing real estate by 9:00, doing $15 million in real estate a year. Did that for 2 years, hired some employees. Somebody came knocking on my door to buy out my company. Yes. And at that moment, that was the year that I started my team.
That is wild.
Because I look back at that time of me packing up on Rubbermaid containers during the recession for the vending machine and still doing, $10, $15 million in real estate. And it was hard work. Right. I was tired. I was exhausted. Everything I have today is because of the little things that I push myself to be uncomfortable and to grow is the reason why I have it today.
Powerful. Question number 2.
Okay.
If you could have lunch with anyone on earth, still alive, I say still alive because I used to say dead or alive, and 99% of people are like, Jesus. So if you could have lunch today with anyone that's still alive, who would it be?
Wow. Gosh. I mean, I wish I could have a round table, really, but really a toss-up between 2 people. John Gordon, he's an amazing author. I think I've read every single one of his books. You talk about positive and culture and things like that. Read every book of his. I highly recommend it. I'm a super raving fan of his. He's amazing. So awesome. Him, and then also Sarah Blakely, who's the creator of Spanx. She is... I have a girl crush on her. She's amazing. Started by nothing and had a dream and had a vision and has a great culture and just is authentic and real. And I just love that about her. And, the business is hers. She didn't get bought out. Like, she stayed the course. She stayed in what she believed in. And she stood up when people said no. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I love that. So
you remind me a lot of her. So that's Kat's idol as well.
Okay.
And
I didn't even know that.
On her. And I follow her husband.
Jesse, I love. I did his coaching platform, which is amazing, by the way. Jesse is
really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
I thought about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. You should do it.
Oh, I'm gonna do it. Okay, number 3. If you had to boil down all of your success to three main things, what would those things be? And it could be habits, skills, disciplines, mindsets. Like what three things stand out if you had to just boil all of your success down to those things?
My work ethic.
Work ethic?
Okay. The people that I surround myself with. It's huge, huge. And it comes by, the people that are on my team, but also the people outside of my professional life, and it's just looking like who lifts you up, right? Like who makes you accountable, who pushes you and stuff like that. So definitely that. And I think that I would say the third thing would just be, and it kind of goes with work ethic, but I would say discipline, but maybe even I would say my ability to share and collaborate without ego. I think that in so many industries, people are like keeping stuff so close to the glove.
That's right.
They don't want to share. And here's the deal. People are going to do their own spin on their things. 90% of the people, if you give them the secret recipe, aren't even going to do the recipe. Let's be honest. Okay. They're not. How many people buy the box of ClickFunnels and never even implement it?
That's exactly right.
Right. So, but there's nothing wrong with sharing how you did something and giving somebody, maybe a year a leg up on your 13-year journey. So I think the collaboration thing has also led to success because everything that I put out there, I get back tenfold.
That's right. That's awesome. Question number 4. Have you ever felt really hopeless or like a complete failure? Why and how did you overcome that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, yes, this happens. But here's the deal. Failure is just a temporary moment. And like I said before, you just keep moving forward. This year, I had all of these houses under contract for a developer and he overextended himself and went belly up and they all went into foreclosure. I lost over $275,000 in commissions. That's a lot of money. Okay. They were all supposed to close in July. My team still had 80 closings. I'm all right. Keep going. In July. We have 70 closings in August. So my positive pants are on. I'm positive. I'm keeping things light. That didn't happen. It hurt. It's a setback. It was a lot of time that was spent, but it wasn't time that was wasted. Right. Because I got other developers. I got other clients. People know how hard I worked on those. Those properties went into foreclosure, and some of the people that are buying them out of foreclosure are calling me to list those properties. So it wasn't a complete failure, but it was definitely a setback, but I'm coming back.
That's incredible. I have 2 quick last questions. Mm-hmm. The next one is, what continues to inspire you to push yourself after you've already had the success to be able to just relax and take it easy? I mean, if you wanted to, you could really take your foot off the gas. And that's one of the things that really blow me away, not just about you, but any successful, what continues to inspire you after you've got the financial part finished and you're good? I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I just have this inner drive. I've been, high school, college, sports, that competitive nature. I do have an inner drive, but, my goals that I had originally, if it's money or knowledge or whatever, those things, I got, right? So that's great. So there's other goals. Like for instance, years ago, I walked into a team meeting and I said, I'm going to have a builder developer division. And they kind of laughed at me. My team members, they're like, Erin, you've only represented buyers on the build side, not builders. I said, well, I'm going to start. And now I have tons of developers where we've got condo projects that are going up to subdivisions and stuff like that. So I just think that, the sky's the limit of what your own capabilities are going to be. And so I think that, never underestimate yourself.
Right. Very last question. And I didn't have this written down, but it's just something that I wanted to ask you just because I know a lot of the guys are going to get a lot out of this, but I want to focus on women for just a minute because, like you said, Sarah Blakely, you're a huge role model. And I know that a lot of women struggle with self-worth issues and things like that. What advice would you give to the women out there that are looking for, what they want to do, what they want to build, looking for their power, their voice? And just, is there anything that you would like to share with them before we wrap up?
I think that nobody's going to care about your dream more than you. And that even comes sometimes to your partner, right? I mean, you have got to be able, if you believe in your dream and you believe in what you're doing, you've got to be the one to keep pushing on. Belief in yourself is hard sometimes, especially when you have setbacks. And it's about pulling yourself up and getting back out there and showing up every single day. And if you show up every single day, it's going to happen. It just might take a little bit longer.
That's awesome. So last thing, could you just let everybody know the best place to follow you, connect with you? Like, how can people find out what you're up to, what you're doing? I know you have your website, ehrenkruger.com.
Correct.
Is there any social media platforms?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're, of course, on Facebook, the Ehren Kruger team at Compass, and we're on Instagram, the Ehren Kruger team. Follow us, drop us a note. I'd love to connect. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ehren, I've absolutely appreciate your time. We're very grateful. I know everybody's going to get so much out of this episode. Thank you so much for being on.
I appreciate you having me.
Yes, ma'am. Take care. Wow. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Ehren. And if something she said resonated with you, the best place to connect with her is on her website, ehrenkruger.com. Thank you again for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you are listening. And please share this episode with someone or anyone that you think might find value. Your support is so valuable in the early stages of the podcast, and it means more to us than you know. See you guys on next week's episode. Have a wonderful day.